Welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast with Scott McKenzie. Scott is a passionate industry professional dedicated to transferring cutting-edge, industry-focused innovations and trends while highlighting the men and women who keep the world moving. So put on your hard hat, grab your work boots, and let's go.
All right, welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast, the number one location for all things industrial. Yep, Industrial Talk. Go figure. We talk industrial. We've got a five-part series that focuses in on industrial cybersecurity. We're going to be featuring some incredible trailblazers, let's put it that way, in the world of cybersecurity. And I believe, and I think you believe, if you're going down this world of digital transformation and you want to take advantage of Industrial 4.0, you need, at the forefront of this particular decision, this strategic decision to help create greater resiliency in your business, cybersecurity. Let's get cracking. So yeah, I've been very fortunate, and of course, you know as well as I do, that there's a lot of conversation out there about cybersecurity. You have the Colonial pipeline. And so Industrial Talk as a whole wants to be this, just a central location for industrial-related information. So you don't have to go around. We want to promote events. We want to promote individuals that are speaking at these events. We want to facilitate this knowledge because we believe that education is it. Education, collaboration, and innovation is where success will be in the future. And that's just the reality of it. So I mentioned briefly about this particular five-part series. This is the first of 5. This is cybersecurity threats, challenges, risks in industrial control environments. And this just came out after the Colonial pipeline, which on the Industrial Talk website, we will have a white paper that was produced by incredible people at Trend Micro. And Trend Micro is sponsoring this particular series. They are fabulous to work with. When you think about cybersecurity, when you think about all the stuff that has to be thought of and how they facilitate this digital transformation, they're not meant to get in your way. They're meant to make sure that that your life is not interrupted by unfortunate situations within cybersecurity. That's what Trend Micro is all about. Now, number 2 in this particular series will be industrial business and technical challenges facing industry. Number 3, cybersecurity best practices. Number 4, industrial cyber solutions, which is pretty cool. And then finally, CEO talk. So we're going to have a conversation on, we've just got to recognize that this is important now because I'm all about getting that information out. There is an event. This is an event that is featuring Trend Micro. It is a live event. It is June 16th. This is for the Americas, June 16th. It is from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And they're going to be talking all things cyber because it's important. It's like the topic is ready for a new perspective. Don't miss this exclusive one-day virtual event. And it's going to be featuring the CEO of Trend Micro and then a gentleman by the name of Neil McDonald, VP and distinguished analyst at Gartner. How about that? And fear not, if you're in Europe, they have one for you too. It's on June 16th, but it's 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then if you're in the Middle East, Africa, and Mediterranean, same thing. June 15th, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then finally in Asia Pacific, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Go out, and I'll have the link. Don't worry about it. I'll have the link out there, but I think that this is an important conversation to have. I think you need to be a part of it. I think you need to hear from leaders within this space because, well, if you want that digital transformation journey, if you want to embrace that, if you want to reap the benefits associated with all of that, you need to have a sound and strong cybersecurity strategy. Trend Micro, reach out to them. All right, this particular podcast, which we're going to convert into the Industrial Academy because I think it's a series that warrants an Industrial Academy type of approach. So this particular podcast, we're going to be talking about cybersecurity threats, challenges, and risks to industrial control environment. It features a gentleman by the name of Ryan Flores as well as Richard Koo, both with Trend Micro. Enjoy. Ryan and Richard, thank you very much for joining the Industrial Talk podcast. Listeners, what we're going to be talking about is cybersecurity threats, challenges, and risks in the industrial control environment. I don't know where you sat on that and then anything cybersecurity, but that particular topic is dead sexy. I am excited about having this conversation. For the listeners there, Ryan, give us a little background on who you are, level set, figure out who you are, and then we're going to go to Richard, do the same thing, and then we're going to go into that topic.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Flores. I'm happy to be here. I've been working in the cybersecurity space for more than a decade now, investigating attacks and incidents. So, the recent attacks that has been happening, it's quite close to my passion and in my field.
It's interesting. I'm looking at your stat card out on LinkedIn. You've been with Trend Micro for 18 years.
Oh yeah.
What did you start at age 1?
No. Right out of college. Yeah, so I'm just one of those young guys that are doing reverse engineering, solutions for viruses and malware that are coming around, and then, progress to looking at cyber criminals and the other technologies and infrastructure that that is being used and that is emerging. So we are excited to be in this space.
I'm telling you, you have a tiger, and you got to hold on to that tail, because there are very creative people out there, very nefarious individuals that never stop thinking about how to, unfortunately, gain access to where they're not supposed to gain access. All right, Richard, give us a little background on who you are and why you're such an incredible cyber guy.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, so I've been around in the cybersecurity space for a little bit over 30 years. Over the last, I would say, 5 years or so, I've been very focused on, I guess, in the development and understanding of, cybersecurity in the industrial space. But I am, in the cybersecurity for more than 30 years with the company. Previously, I involved in a lot of product development, a lot of research. So, yeah, I've been very passionate about, cybersecurity, specifically on the industrial area, right? Because I think over the last, couple of years, we have been having a lot of challenge, especially in some of the critical infrastructure. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit more, but I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, here's the interesting part. There's the good side, bad side, double-edged sword type of thing with this digital transformation journey, right? It just is. You leverage the available innovation that exists out there that give you greater insights into what your business is doing. But then again, you're opening up areas of weakness potentially. If you're not a business, if you're not an industrial business, not thinking about, hey, this is great IoT stuff. What's that cyber side? Ryan, let's talk a little bit about, from my perspective, just lay the foundation of what is a cybersecurity threat? What does that mean? And why are people interested in trying to gain access to the industrial, infrastructure?
Yeah. So basically, a cyber threat is something that can adversely affect your network or your digital assets, right? So it can be something in a more traditional IT network. It can be like the server. It can be a user account that has access to certain information. And in other networks, like in an OT network, that can be an ICS endpoint that is responsible for controlling a certain process or monitoring certain conditions, right? But the thing that we've learned in studying these kind of attacks is that A lot of times the attackers don't really target, or maybe they don't have an initial idea who they were able to compromise or gain access to. It's just that they learn about it when they are able to gain access, and then, okay, this looks like an important company. This looks like an important server in the network. I'm going to attack it, ransom it. So, and then. I think, like, for example, in the Colonial attack, right, the attackers even admitted that they were not aware of the impact of the attack that they have done.
So again, let's get into the psychology of it. Why is that appealing to some? It's like, I know I don't, outside of the fact that I might be considered lazy, but I don't sit around saying, how do I, penetrate, get into for no reason. It's like,
oh yeah,
I don't understand. What's the psychology behind that?
It's just the money. It's a business out there. So a lot of the attacks that are happening right now is monetary driven. They plan to gain to profit from the attacks, either via extorting for the files that has been, or the network that has been held ransom, or by blackmailing that, hey, if you don't pay me up, I would reveal this information, this data that I have on you, that I have stolen from your network, or building up a value chain in the cybercrime underground network. Meaning, if I, for example, have stolen several credentials and it's quite important, I can then resell this to somebody else who might be interested in these credentials for later use. So it's really an economy out there, and everything is driven by money.
So
Scott, let me also add it, right? Because I think if you look at the history of cyber threat, right?
Yeah.
Back in the 80s and 90s, right? Most of this cyber incident or threat is really coming from, I think, kids or college student and, laboratory, right? That's kind of the early 80s and 90s, right? And it's more proving they can do it. But then as over time, right, you start to see all this digital transformation, and people start to see that there's a economic to be gained from it, right? And so all these attacker or these hackers now try to basically transform their business model, right, from not just try to prove they can do it, but now they are really focused on monitoring gains and getting access to confidential information, and can sell all those underground, right? And that whole underground market, it is the economy. Actually, it's quite big. I mean, it's probably a couple trillion, dollars in terms of the whole economy underground, right? And so for them, it's easy for them to make money, right? I mean, we work. It's easy for them. So
you said the T word. My jaw just dropped. I said, I can't. What? You dropped $1 trillion on that. Holy
or maybe
cow.
a couple hundred billion. I can't remember the exact number, but the last time I looked at it was something like, I can't remember, Ryan, but it was something like $200 or $300 billion or something, economy or something, right? So
I would think it's more on the B, not on the T.
Yeah.
Holy cow! Yeah, I better sharpen up my skills if that's the case. No, don't even contact me and say that. Okay, so me, business owner, I'm still very confused, and the reason I'm confused is where are the laws that, in this case, let's use the elephant in the room. Let's just take that for example. You got this ransomware situation on Colonial Pipeline. It is impacting me, and it's impacting a lot of people around the United States. And I guess they tracked it back to Russia and all of this good stuff. What do we do? We pay for that extortion? What do we do? What are the laws?
Unfortunately, a lot of victims actually opt to pay, or not a lot, a significant number of victims pay, because it's also difficult for them to recover. Once, for
Wow.
example, your network is hacked, so they also play the economic game, right? So if it takes us 1 month to recover and pay this amount of money to contractors, to software licenses and everything like that, instead of just paying it, so they have that, they have to juggle that with the time constraints that they also have.
Yes. Now I understand. It's like, boom, incident happens, ransomware, bring, we've got a problem. Now the decision on the business side is like, okay, we can pay it. Okay, I see it. Or I have got to find somebody or some company or some entity to remove it. This has a price. This has a price, and you got to look at it from that point of view.
Yes.
Oh, that's ugly. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, it's really
Wow.
difficult, especially in the industrial environments, because you also need to factor in the lost time of production, right?
Yes. So let's sort of pull on that string a little bit with the Colonial pipeline. Ransomware. Do you, by chance, Ryan, have any insights into what took place with that event?
All right. So I'm not going to speak about anything that I don't factually know.
Yep.
But for example, it's been known that these ransomware groups don't operate by themselves. They have other affiliates or partners that would do the actual hacking for them. And they just, it's like commission based. You install our ransomware into a compromised network. We don't do the compromise ourselves. We don't do the hacking ourselves. But if you manage to hack a network, contact us, and you'll get a cut of whatever profit we make from that. So there's also like a tiered model there, and it's also depends on whom they are able to hack or compromise. If it's a bigger company, they would ask for a bigger ransom. If it's a smaller company, they actually judge the capability to pay of the victim. And how would the initial compromise or hack happen? Several things. There might be unpatched systems that are exposed to the internet. There might be phished user accounts, user credentials that the attackers were initially able to gain access to, or there might just be some security misconfigurations that are made available, or the hacker was able to, by happenstance, able to access. And these things happen, and we've seen all of these things played out in previous incidents.
So this is it. This is unnerving, right? You and others with txOne Micro, this never stops, right? No, they don't just say, "Hey, those guys at txOne Micro, they pretty much protect everything, and so we might as well just shut it down." But that's not the case. They're going to continue to try to figure out ways of penetrating these because the financial rewards are too great.
Oh yes, definitely. That's why, for example, one of the push is not just for the having security products, but also having people in the industry advocate for more cybersecurity or tailored cybersecurity for this particular niche, right? Industry niche.
Yeah.
And also having people in the industry talk to each other, share information, share best practices, in order to have a higher, to raise the bar for the attackers, to overcome.
So I hear what you're saying. I'm uncomfortable. I'm getting a little. Now, if they hack me, I've got $20 out there. I'll pay for it, but that's about it, man. I don't have anything beyond that. But let me ask you this. What are the actionable items that we could do today? If I was a business, give us a little, 1, 2, 3, do these things today.
All right. So one of the things that we've seen is that basic security hygiene or cybersecurity hygiene is not, or is not as as widespread as we would have hoped. There's a lot of small companies out there that have one IT administrator guy who's managing the whole network, both IT and OT network side, and that is not enough. One of the things that contribute to that is that the awareness of the business owner, of the management, that security is important, cybersecurity is important. So I think if we have to start somewhere, we have to put out the word out there that first and foremost, cybersecurity is important, especially if you have critical infrastructure and critical equipment processes that you maintain and run, right? And the next step with that would be make the investment in hiring the right people and implementing the right technology in order to properly protect all of these assets and processes. And the third would be having good knowledge on what is in your network. A lot of times, what we've seen is that the reason why an attacker is able to enter the network is because there is one computer out there that has been forgotten, that is not part of the audit, that was just lying there connected to the network, and everybody has forgotten about it, and that was what the attacker was able to gain access to. So having a complete visibility and audit on what assets you have and where those assets are connected to and what these assets mean to the network would be a good step to be able to know your network and to be able to properly protect the network.
So Scott, let me add a couple of things as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think in addition to Ryan's point, when I speak to many of my customer and partners, there are kind of 4 key pillars that I typically recommend them, right? And those are people, process, technology, and the culture within the organization, right? And so I think people play a very important role in cyber security or your cyber strategy, right? If you have a good trained, security awareness organization, that can reduce your cybersecurity risk, as well as having the competence people and resources to deal with such incidents is important. So I think the people piece is also very important. And then followed by that process, right? To get a good cybersecurity strategy, you need to have some type of process in place, right? So that you can some kind of governance or some type of auditing to make sure that as you implement your cyber strategy, you need to continue to evolve. You continue to basically make sure that get improve over time, right? And so a good process in place, and that also very good. And the technology itself, specifically on the industrial control side, right? In industrial control, because some of these systems have been around for decades, right? And many of these systems have old operating system, it was never designed to have security. And so in order to build the right security solution, implement the right solution, you need to make sure that the solution you actually bring into that environment can be adapt, right? And work in that environment. Because my experience with many customers where they try to take an IT product and try to deploy on the OT environment and does not always solve the problem because it actually create more problem than solving it. So understand the technology, right? Validate, verify, and make sure the technology can be work on that environment. And then of course, last but not least is that culture thing, right? You have to create some kind of like culture, cybersecurity culture within the organization, right? And that will really gonna help people to evolve around it and make sure that can be done. Otherwise, people just don't care too much and put cybersecurity at very low. So at least those are on a very big picture. Right? Those are the fundamental things that I think organizations need to consider. And then you talk about what are my cyber security cyber framework need to look at, right? So those are the things.
Very good on both accounts. Very interesting. Now, it makes sense. What are the roadblocks? What are preventing people to do what is right for their organizations in the world of cybersecurity? What are they not getting?
Yeah, let me add that, and maybe Ron, you can add as well.
Sure, Richard.
I think that especially in the industrial side, right, there are some definitely business challenge, right? And we kind of talk about it a little bit, and also there's some technical challenge, and those are kind of roadblock. I think, especially on the OT world, right, you have kind of 4 areas that I see as a big challenge. One is that lack of domain knowledge and expertise, right? Especially on, cybersecurity for OT or industrial control side. There's a lack of skill set, lack of expertise in that area. So that's one big, I think, kind of, issue on that. And then, traditionally you have this conversion between IT and OT.
Yeah.
And you don't have that before, right? Before it was just IT and then OT, they're all completely separate. But now you have this convergence. And that roles and responsibilities become very unclear as to who need to manage or who need to make decisions on certain, let's say, cyber incident, right? And that is also a big, big challenge for many, many organizations. And then another piece is that legacy liability, right? You have all this old environment have been around for decades. And how do you make sure that you can implement the right technology, the right solution into those environments? So that's a big challenge for them, because many of these environments have been worked and, will continue to be worked, for the next 5 or 10 years, right? And don't want to touch it, right? And, in the old way saying is, hey, if it worked, then, why bother?
Right.
So I think that's a big, obstacle for folks. And I think last but not least, at least from my perspective, is that, organizations tend to kind of put a high, I would say, priority on the economic side versus cybersecurity, right? Cybersecurity is always kind of the draw or kind of the secondary, I think priority. And so I think that had to change, given some of the very current incident, like from the Colonial pipeline or the SolarWinds attacks, or even some of the, Microsoft, vulnerability, right? These are, and it should be, upfront and in priority for many organizations. So at least those are some of the challenges in people. And maybe the last thing is that ROI, right? People don't see a return on investment, especially when it comes to investing in cybersecurity, right? And so they want to see the economic, and sometimes, you don't see that. So those are some of the, I think, potential challenge for many organizations.
Well, I guarantee you Colonial knows about the ROI, understands the economic impact. That's for doggone sure. Do you have anything to add to that, Ryan?
Oh, yeah. I think just the one thing that I would like to add is that I think there's still big discrepancy between what the IT people think and the OT people think.
Yep.
And I think it's just a matter of them getting into a room together, understanding each other's priorities and what they are trying to achieve, so that the digitization that is happening right now proceeds with security in mind and also supports both the IT objective and the OT objective.
And that's cultural. And
Yes.
Richard brought that up, and that's a cultural thing. And we've all been in organizations where they don't talk.
Yep.
they just don't.
Yeah, and unfortunately, in this industry, especially for the industrial control side, right, these people haven't been talking to each other for so many decades, right? And now, because this convergence is forcing people to have that conversation and talking, and I think it's very difficult, right?
So I've got a couple of other sort of insights here that I want to ask you guys. First off, let's say I'm a business, and I think Ryan and Richard, you painted a picture that it's a dynamic environment out there, and you got to keep current, and you got to constantly consume this information in some way, shape, or form. You got to find the organizations to be able to share their story, which is pretty hard when it comes to cybersecurity. People are not really sharing information from a business, what's going on. Now, I've got limited resources. Fine. Is there a value proposition for what I would call a fractional cybersecurity expert? Like, I can't have a guy on board. I can't pay that, but I can try to fractionalize and say, I've got somebody over here that keeps current with all the information that's out there. I can draw upon that. it makes sense for my financials, but I'm moving forward in a secure strategy. Is there any value proposition there?
Yeah, I think within the industry, there are industry-specific CERT, computer emergency response teams. I believe there's ICS CERT that exists, and they would send regular notices on certain incidents that are happening that are affecting the industry. So there are organizations out there that do this kind of things that help distill, that stream of information and then funnel it to the right industry and to the right people. I think also there's some ISAC type of organizations that is also for ICS and OT. So I think if you're a business and you want to have industry relevant information regarding cybersecurity, it would be best to subscribe into these type of organizations and mailing lists, because the information that arrives to you is already filtered out and would be relevant to your industry.
We talk about, and I think Richard, you brought it up, which is very important. And in the world of utilities, when we start talking about legacy liability, there are assets out there that are 50, 60, and beyond years of age. And it still works, still churning along.
Right.
I see a real challenge to say, how do we create a secure environment for those? And that's also in the water, right? I mean, you don't want compromises in the water world. You just don't. And given the realities that have taken place recently with Colonial and others, I want to compress my time. So how do I get a hold of somebody at Trend Micro to help me with my learning curve to get up to a speed where I feel comfortable? And then I can start deploying the things that I need to do, the processes, or begin to think through it. Because if you want this digital transformation world we want to live in, you cannot ignore the cybersecurity side. Is there a way of being able to contact Trend Micro?
Yeah, so, as you know, Trend Micro have been around for, over 30 years, right? And we have many partners as well as, reseller across, the U.S. or across multiple regions. And each of these partners we actually do a lot of training for them, right? Available either by, used to be, person to person in the past, but now we have a lot of online materials that anyone can actually come into our website and get that training and to get that education, and that's available today through our partners, through some resellers, right? And of course, there are tons of information that we are making available for anyone who are interested in learning more of this, at our website, or you just contact Trend Micro directly, and we'd be happy to send you all the necessary information needed.
Yeah, I'm out on the trendmicro.com website, and I'm looking at everything. You've got it's easily navigate. I can navigate around it. I can see everything that exists out there. I see partners. I see support. I think it's an easy peasy way of being able to sort of begin that education in cybersecurity. Just because, I mean, let's just lay it on the table. You have to. You can't ignore it.
Right.
You just.
Yeah.
Sorry. You might want to, but you're going to have to do it.
So, Scott, also to add, if our viewers or listeners can just Google Trend Micro IoT security, we actually have a dedicated page for IoT security related news and research straight from the research team, such as from my team and other teams inside Trend Micro. And that's condensed, organized into that single page for that relevant information.
All right, listeners, we're going to have all these links, including some of the other resources that they were talking about. So fear not, you'll be able to find everything you possibly can. There it is. I've been on the Trend Micro site. I just popped into the Trend Micro IoT security site. Excellent. Yep. Resource rich. No complaining, baby. None. You're not going to listen to it if I did complain. I'm already nervous. No. All right. We're going to have to wrap it up. And I want to make sure everybody notes this. This is a real important conversation. We're going to continue to expand upon it because we have more in the area of cybersecurity. So don't just say this is one and done. We've got more that is very important. This is a very important topic that is meaningful to your business. This was on cybersecurity threat challenges and risks. Big. We're going to give you some links out there. Definitely. This is going to be in a video. It's going to be out there. So learn your cybersecurity. Ryan, absolute wonderful meeting you.
Thank you, Scott, for having us.
Always enjoyed your conversation, Richard. You're always great.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you guys.
Talk to you soon.
Wonderful job. Yep. Thank you. And once again, listeners, we're going to wrap it up on the other side. We're going to, once again, figure out how to get in contact with these gents and everything that's associated with cybersecurity.
You're listening to the Industrial Talk Podcast Network.
All right. Once again, this is number 1 in a series of 5 regarding cybersecurity and digital transformation and why it's important for you as a manufacturer, as anybody within industry, to reach out to Trend Micro, find out more. It'll all be out there on industrialtalk.com. And remember, we're going to have this as a featured Industrial Academy learning management opportunity as well, with all of the links, all of the contact, all of the information that you could possibly need to gear up and make sure that you are truly ready to go in your cyber world. Once again, let's talk a little bit about that event that we're talking about. June 16th, put that on your calendar. 11 a.m., 4 p.m. I have the links out there. Just go out to Industrial Talk, find the right time zone. But remember, you need to have this conversation. You need to be able to do this. It is exceptionally important. Now, before I go, second podcast, industry, business, and technology trends. Stay tuned. We're going to have another great conversation.